Let's talk about a day the markets went completely off the rails, a day that ripped the curtain back and showed just how fragile our financial system can be. We're diving into a story about paper promises, physical reality, and the absolute chaos that happens when the two go to war. You're going to want to remember this date, January 30th, 2026, because on that single day, the silver market got hit by a shockwave unlike anything seen in over 40 years. It was, to put it mildly, a day of reckoning.
The paper price of silver, the spot price you see on the news, it just fell off a cliff. It dropped a jaw-dropping 37%. That's the biggest single-day crash since the Hunt brothers tried to corner the market way back in 1980. Billions of dollars in paper value. Poof! Vanished. But here's where the story takes a really, really weird turn.
Yeah, you heard that right. While the paper market was in a total meltdown, the price for actual physical silver, the coins and bars you can hold in your hand, it didn't crash. In fact, in a lot of places around the world, it started climbing. How on earth is that even possible? Well, that's the paradox we're going to unravel today.
Okay, so first things first. What in the world could trigger such a massive financial earthquake? Let's begin with the absolute collapse of that paper price. When you look at this timeline, it's just the speed is insane. The price had been on a tear, surging 250% over the past year, hitting an all-time high of about $121 an ounce. And then, literally the next day, the bottom just falls out. A huge wave of margin calls hit, forcing traders to sell, which caused more selling, a classic domino effect. The price just crashed. And when the smoke cleared, the damage was immense.
To really get what went down here, you have to understand a fundamental conflict. See, there isn't just one silver market. There are actually two. And for a long time, they were on a collision course.
So, on one side, you've got your paper silver. This is the world of futures, ETFs. Basically, it's all promises. It's people trading claims on silver, often with a ton of leverage, and it's mostly driven by speculation. Then you've got physical silver. We're talking actual bars, actual coins. Its price is supposed to be about real-world supply and demand for a tangible thing that has a finite supply. For years, these two markets sort of got along, but the tension underneath was building to a breaking point.
So when we say leverage, what are we even talking about? Well, in this world, paper leverage is pretty simple. It's the ratio of how many paper promises exist for every single ounce of real physical silver that's actually available. And understanding this number, well, it's everything. And here is the problem, boiled down to one single terrifying ratio. On the COMEX exchange, for every 1 ounce of actual silver sitting in the vaults, there were more than 14 paper claims for it. Just think about that for a second. Over 14 different people or entities all believed they owned the exact same ounce of silver. It was a giant game of financial musical chairs, and someone was about to stop the music. Now, while the paper market was busy basically printing silver out of thin air, something was happening in the real world, something big. We were actually starting to run out of the stuff. A huge supply squeeze had been building for years, pretty much right under everyone's nose. And here's the bottom line. For more than 5 years, the world was consistently using more silver than it was mining and recycling. We were in a structural deficit. This was being driven by huge industrial demand for things like solar panels and all our electronics. The modern world was literally eating through the available physical supply. And you can see the results right here. The amount of physical silver actually sitting in the COMEX vaults, the metal that's supposed to back up all those paper claims, had dropped by over 70% since 2020. The stockpile was just draining away, which made that 14-to-1 leverage ratio even more dangerous. And this is where it all comes to a head. This is the moment the paper fantasy couldn't ignore physical reality any longer. This is when the two markets didn't just disagree, they violently broke apart. Market analysts quickly gave it a name, the Great Divorce of 2026. And honestly, it's the perfect name for it. Because what happened was a historic decoupling, where the price of a promise completely broke away from the price of the actual thing. Just look at these numbers from the day of the crash. The paper spot price on the COMEX is melting down to around $74. At the exact same time, buyers in Shanghai are paying nearly $120 an ounce for physical delivery. Two completely different prices for the same commodity on the same day. It's wild. That's a premium of over 54%. People were willing to pay that much more just to get their hands on the real metal instead of a paper IOU. It was a clear signal. The paper market had lost all connection to the real value of silver. And this wasn't just numbers on a trading screen. The fallout hit the real world hard. Retailers like Costco, who had actually started selling silver bars, had to ration sales and then just stop. China slapped on aggressive export controls, essentially weaponizing their supply. Premiums for physical metal went through the roof in places like Japan and the UAE, as producers just could not keep up with the tidal wave of demand for delivery.
So, where does that leave us now? The initial shock is past, but the future of silver is anything but clear. And right now, the experts are split into two camps with very different ideas. You've got the bulls and the bears. The bears are warning that the pain isn't over yet. They think the paper price could fall even further as more forced selling happens. But the bulls, they see a totally different picture. They argue that because physical supply is so incredibly tight, the normal market tricks to balance prices won't work. Why? Because there's no actual metal to deliver. They think the physical price is the one to watch, and it could spike way higher.
And that really leaves us with the one massive question this whole crisis is exposed. In a world that runs on paper promises and digital entries, when this system gets pushed to its breaking point, what actually holds real, tangible value? The silver crash of 2026 wasn't just about a market breaking. It was about forcing everyone to ask what their money is truly worth.
And just so you know, our breakdown today was based on some incredible analysis and reporting from the Shasta Beacon.